1980s Hong Kong action cinema broke new ground by blending martial arts acumen with cinematic boldness, prioritizing visceral clarity and narrative rhythm. Low budgets and real urban backdrops spurred resourceful design, rickety sets, inventive gadgetry, and street chase ingenuity, imbuing films with authentic grit and immediacy that Western studios seldom matched. Practical effects power, powder, rice dust explosions, and tears of blood amplified each hit, while color-coded costumes instantly signaled hero and villain, fostering wordless storytelling. Behind the camera, stunt performers-turned-choreographers embraced life-threatening risks, blocking unpadded blows, executing precise high falls, and enduring countless takes with minimal safety measures to achieve a realism unmatched by Western counterparts. Cinematographers reinforced this aesthetic through wide-angle lenses that captured full-range moves, dynamic depth staging that immersed audiences, and a predominantly steady camera that only shifted via lateral tracks, abrupt zooms, and varied angles to punctuate pivotal strikes. Editing techniques like the power cut, which fused wind-up and impactful shots, and shock cuts, which delayed the victim's reaction for maximum surprise, crystallized a new grammar of force. Slow motion evolved beyond pre-hit flair into montages that underscored technique and emotion, while meticulously timed fast cuts maintained spatial coherence and frenzy. This alchemy of world-class stunt work, theatrical yet believable combat, transparent visual grammar, and pioneering editing codified an action aesthetic so precise and potent that it outpaced contemporaries and laid the blueprint for future blockbusters. We're going to explore Marvelous Video's top 30 Hong Kong action gems from the 80s in this video, so let's begin. Righting Wrongs, 1986. The best thing about Hong Kong action films is that they get straight to the point without beating around the bush. The movie Righting Wrongs tells the story of a lawyer who decides to take the law into his own hands after realizing the corruption prevalent in the system. When his family is killed and a key witness is also eliminated by the criminals to avoid conviction, he begins a vengeance streak soaked in violence. What makes things even more complicated is a feisty cop, Cindy C, on the case, and the action promises to be absolutely breathtaking in this maddening journey. Directed by Corey Yuen, the movie stars Biao Yuen in the lead role, and Cynthia Rothrock is a solid addition to the cast. The director is a renowned martial arts choreographer who worked on movies like The Transporter 1 and 2 and X-Men, as well as Romeo Must Die, and you get to see a lot of his bone-crushing stunts and insane fight sequences. If you watch the English-dubbed UK version, you'll see a different ending from the original, but both storylines are equally impressive. For this role, Cynthia Rothrock turned down a part opposite Jackie Chan, but the movie experience will tell you that she chose right. Don't miss out on this remarkable 80s Hong Kong fight fest. In the Line of Duty 4, Witness, 1989. Officers Donnie and Penny are contrasting characters, and these two cops don't necessarily get along. However, one of their investigations on a drug trafficking case leads them to a valuable and innocent witness who's the key to solving a critical murder case. The assailants are hot on the trail of this witness, and Donnie and Penny need to set aside their differences and work together to protect him and finally solve the case. As far as good martial arts movies are concerned, things don't get much better than this. Des Mangan was clearly not kidding when he said that this would be the most action-packed film in the Line of Duty franchise. The action is almost non-stop, and this is often regarded as one of the more obscure Donnie Yen movies, yet it's a sublime classic that all fans of the genre should experience. Cynthia Khan looks as great as she fights, and there are some ruthless villains along the way to keep things interesting. The simple and functional plot works wonders, and the movie is best enjoyed over a couple beers for a perfect weekend. Eastern Condors, 1987. The story is premised in the aftermath of the Vietnam War, where a group of Asian prisoners are recruited, trained, and armed to be sent to Vietnam on a crucial mission. The mission involves destroying a huge amount of American weaponry left behind during the pullout of the troops, and the mission also brings the prisoners at war with the local Viet Cong. When one of those involved in the mission turns out to be a double agent, things get complicated, and after a number of them are dead, it's up to Tung and Rat to fight the Viet Cong group and accomplish this impossible task. Don't watch this as another Vietnam War flick, because that's not what you're going to get here. There are plenty of nods to the other films in this genre, but it is essentially a typical 80s Hong Kong classic. Some have called this movie a cross between Dirty Dozen and The Deer Hunter, and it's not exactly a wrong assessment. It's easily one of Sammo Hung's best works, and the action sequences are worth your time. The likes of Yuan Biao and Yuan Hua are ever reliable as villains, and we love the anti-war sentiment that runs throughout the narrative. If you're looking for a kung fu-based military drama, look no further. Wheels on Meals, 1984. Wheels on Meals tells the story of a couple of Chinese friends who run a food truck in Barcelona. They help their private investigator friend in protecting a pickpocket named Sylvia, but the rescue act has greater repercussions. Sylvia was targeted by a ruthless organization, and by saving her, the trio find themselves up against an evil gang with overwhelming numbers. Luckily for them, they're experts in martial arts, and you know what happens next in such action fests. The movie offers a fun and exciting narrative premised in Spain, and Samo's choreography is what steals the show. He's a master of martial arts, and it shows in this movie that doesn't necessarily have a great script. The final moments of this movie in particular are done perfectly, and it's a testament to the golden days of Hong Kong action cinema. There's also some genuine comic relief to keep things light, and Jackie Chan is spot on for his role. Many even claim that this movie has one of his best fight scenes, but that might be a bit of an exaggeration. Project A, 1983. The story is premised in 19th century Hong Kong, and while the British rule the land, the waters are under the control of the pirates. The Coast Guard and the Navy fail in all attempts to rein in the pirate threat because the pirates have several insiders in the government that get them all the information that they need. In this perilous situation, Sergeant Dragon Ma, played by the iconic Jackie Chan, is the only hope for this force. Can he control the pirate problem and save the reputation of the Coast Guard? One look at the film and you'll be able to tell that it's a big-budget project. The sets look amazing, and everything from the costumes to the production efforts are admirable. The stunts look insanely real because of all the effort that has gone into making the scenes. One such example is the clock tower sequence, where Jackie Chan was scared of failing voluntarily and showing it on camera, and to make it realistic, he held on until he actually lost his grip and fell. The likes of Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Yuan Biao fighting each other is a sight that no martial arts fan would want to miss, and we can say with confidence that many of these stunts wouldn't even be allowed in Hollywood because of the risks. If you want some pure entertainment with a decent storyline, Project A is the way to go. A Better Tomorrow, 1986. A Better Tomorrow is the story of two brothers, one of whom has a criminal past while the other is a graduate of the Hong Kong Police Academy. The cop learns about his brother's criminal history, but he is willing to reform. There's just one small problem because the criminal brother's gang ties haven't left him behind. What follows is a series of twists and heists and shootouts that brings together this extreme action-packed storyline. This was one of the most popular Hong Kong action flicks back in the day, and kids even wore long coats known as dusters to copy the lead character from the movie. John Woo's direction needs no introduction, and this kinetic crime flick proves his talent once again. The story is gritty and engaging, bringing together concepts of brotherhood, friendship, and loyalty. The action scenes are top-notch, and Chow Yun-fat is amazing as Mark, just as much as Leslie Cheung is impressive as Kit. The chemistry between the actors makes this story stand out, and this is one of those feel-good movies that you'll never regret watching. Yes, Madam, 1985. This Hong Kong action classic directed by Corey Yuen tells the story of two petty thieves, Aspirin and Strepsil. They're unlucky enough to get involved in a murder case after breaking into a murdered man's hotel room and stealing some of his belongings. The just murdered man had hidden an important microfilm in his passport, and a mob boss is after it. After Inspector Ng and Inspector Morris are assigned to the case, things go haywire and the cops are soon led to the petty crooks, which eventually leads them to the mob boss. Of course, all this isn't happening without some nail-biting action. We love the casting for this movie because Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock put on a memorable show, both in terms of acting and stunts. This movie is even more special for Cynthia Rothrock because it marks her debut and she doesn't show any signs of jittery nerves. The battling babes are sure to keep you on your toes, and the final action scene featuring the two is simply fascinating. There is some cringe-worthy comedy as well that you wouldn't mind, and so long as you don't go about counting the flaws of the movie, you'll probably enjoy the experience. Lucky Stars Go Places, 1986. This is the fourth movie in the Lucky Stars series, and it stars original Lucky Stars member Sammo Hung. The story details the heroics of Kid Stuff, who is tasked by the police to investigate an international ammunition trade between two gangs. This brings him at odds against the Japanese Yakuza, who also have a case of stolen diamonds, and a group of terrorists who have the stockpile of ammunition. Can he overcome the odds and establish law and order? Lucky Stars Go Places, directed by Eric Sang, is a typical 80s Hong Kong classic, and even the plotline is somewhat generic. Everything is laid out in clear terms and there's no in-depth narrative, but don't mistake that for being poor quality. It's a guilty pleasure that you'll probably enjoy, and while some say that this is the worst film in the franchise, it's still pretty entertaining. The only downside is the infantile comedy, but Sammo Hung and Carl Macka more than make up for that with their fight scenes. The movie is worth checking out purely for the history behind it and the sheer joy of something so simple. Painted Faces, 1988. This biographical drama will tell you more about the Hong Kong film industry than any other source, and Painted Faces is a solemn reminder of how some of the greatest stars of the industry were born. The story explores the journey of the master who trained the likes of Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Yuen Biao at the Peking Opera School. They were all guided by the legendary teacher Master Yu and grew up through decades of training, blood, and sweat to become the stars that we know them as now. This isn't your typical Sammo Hung action flick, but you should check it out regardless because the movie actually offers a pretty heartfelt narrative. The harshness and discipline of Master Yu steals the show, and while you may not get the gritty action sequences that you love, the process behind what you see in the other movies will make for a fascinating watch. The movie can be a bit gloomy at times, and it does borrow significantly from the autobiography of Jackie Chan about his years at the Academy. Painted Faces is essentially a slice-of-life drama, and it comes with some valuable lessons for the viewer as well. It wouldn't be a wrong choice amidst all the casual entertainment that the 80s Hong Kong classics has to offer. Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, 1985. This movie is a suspenseful thriller that explores the events after a police informant is killed by a drug lord's henchman. He had sent a letter containing the details of the drug lord's operation to his friend Yi Ching, who also became a target of the gang. Meanwhile, a couple of police detectives are assigned the task of protecting Yi Ching and another valuable witness, and the plot thickens as the drug lord tries his best to protect the drug racket. This is yet another entry in the Lucky Stars franchise, and it's probably sillier than the previous one, but we're not complaining. The movie boasts an outstanding cast with the likes of Sammo Hung, who impresses both as a director and as an actor. The action scenes are top-notch, and the only issue with the movie might be sitting through the slapstick humor that might not be to everyone's taste. Among some of the memorable scenes in the movie, we have to talk about the Pepsi factory battle sequence, and you'll get to see Yuen Biao's legendary kick, which is one of the coolest in Hong Kong action cinema. We don't know if the third movie is the best in the series or if it's a weaker effort, but the movie's definitely worth watching for all of you action fans out there. Project A, Part 2, 1987. We've already covered the original Project A in this video, and the sequel is an impressive follow-up. The iconic Dragon Ma is back, and this time he has a new challenge after dealing with the pirate threat. He's back on land and assigned to the police force, but the corruption in the system is rampant, and so is the crime scene. On the other hand, there are the anti-Manchu revolutionaries against the Manchu government, and Dragon finds himself caught up in a dilemma as he has to contend with everything from a mob boss to political instability. The movie is a Jackie Chan classic, and the story is a typical adventure featuring the Asian sensation. It also proves that not all sequels are bad, and you will be bowled over by some stupendous entertainment. The fight scenes are as real as they get, and the stunts are going to leave you awestruck. There's a small example of what makes the Hong Kong film industry so authentic in the scene where Jackie Chan chews on peppers and rubs them in the eyes of the attackers. Since the prop department didn't have time to create the fake peppers, real ones were used, and you can imagine their agony to give you some laughs. The drama can be a bit too much for some, but there is really nothing wrong about this exciting sequel. Police Story, 1985. This Jackie Chan vehicle tells the story of an honest cop named Kevin who single-handedly captures and arrests a major drug lord. However, his world changes quickly when the drug lord gets his revenge and frames him for the murder of another cop. Kevin has to steer clear of law enforcement and prevent his arrest, while also gathering enough proof of his innocence to redeem himself. Meanwhile, he also has to salvage his relationship with his girlfriend, and it all boils down to the perfect all-around drama. It's probably a tragedy for the Hollywood industry that it missed out on Jackie Chan in his prime, and this movie is a great example of how he could ace both the roles of a director and an actor. This high-energy cop drama is regarded as one of Jackie Chan's best, and it surely has some of the iconic star's finest fight scenes. The stunts look so real because they are, and the number of people who sustained injuries during filming is almost everyone involved. There are some differences between the original Chinese and dubbed English versions, and some of the jokes lose their impact, as is often the case with translation. It's still a must-watch and a masterpiece from the golden era of Hong Kong cinema. Police Story 2, 1988. Police Story 2 is for all those who don't believe in the perfect sequel, because Jackie Chan makes it happen with a solid follow-up. Even after all the heroics of Kevin in the earlier movie, he goes underappreciated and finds himself demoted at work to a traffic cop. As if life wasn't challenging enough for him, he also has to deal with a harassing boss, and what's worse is an old enemy of Kevin's is back for revenge. This also offers Kevin a chance to prove his worth to the police department, and the story tells you whether or not he gets his redemption. The Hong Kong super cop is back with his unorthodox methods, and Jackie Chan steals the show yet again. Equally impressive is Maggie Cheung, who even suffered a serious head injury on the set after metal rods fell on her. The story isn't the movie's strongest asset, and in this department, its predecessor probably wins the contest. That being said, its simplistic narrative will hardly be your concern with all the funny stuff going on. The stunts are breathtaking as usual, but it's the typical nature of Hong Kong action drama that keeps the movie going. All in all, Police Story 2 is enjoyable stuff, and we don't mind more of the same when it comes to Jackie Chan-infused action. Millionaires Express, 1986. What happens when you roll a western, a comedy, and a martial arts film all into one? You get something like Millionaires Express, which you might as well call an entertaining Eastern given the region. The story features a former outlaw who returns to his town and wants to make amends for his sins. He invests a lot of his wealth in various projects and even invites wealthy merchants to make things better. But the outlaw has to ensure that the bandits are kept away, and it soon becomes a former outlaw against the current group of bandits who want to steal it all away. The concept of this movie is not something you see every day, and we love the subtle art of storytelling that goes into the film. The narrative is also hilarious, which makes it even more of a comedy at times, but the climactic dose of martial arts will satisfy every action fan out there. Like many other similar movies, there were some serious injuries during filming, and Yuen Biao suffered a broken leg during one of the stunts. The film often gets purposefully campy, but the bizarre bits are also pure entertainment, and we kept wondering how much training went into the actors to pull off some of these impossible sequences. Pettic Cab Drivers, 1989. Lo Tung and Malted Candy are close friends, and they both work as petty cab drivers on the streets of Macau. Their life takes a drastic turn when they both fall in love with women who have some complicated attachments. One of the women is a baker while the other's a prostitute, and they are both tied up with their cruel and lecherous boss. The friends must find a way to save their love interests from their miserable lives, but this will also bring them face to face with the boss and his henchmen. Hong Kong action comedy films directed by Sammo Hung, also featuring him in a key role, are nothing short of a special emotion for the fans. And Petty Cab Drivers is another addition to that legacy. This movie mixes genres perfectly, and the story is pretty well written, unlike some other films in the industry that are more about action and stunts. Sammo Hung's physical comedy is hilarious, and while the movie offers a lot of laughs, the narrative can be badass and brutal at times. If you can brave through the language barrier, this is going to be one hell of an experience to remember. The Blonde Fury, 1989. This movie also goes by the name Lady Reporter, and the story follows FBI agent Cindy, who goes to Hong Kong to arrest a criminal newspaper editor named Ronnie Dak. He runs a business of counterfeit currency using his printing machine, and in the process of investigating his crimes, Cindy also hooks up with an old friend, an undercover cop, and a journalist as she takes on the henchmen of Ronnie Dak, who are of course skilled in kung fu. Every action lover swears by Cynthia Rothrock, and she looks as beautiful in this movie as her perfect stunts that she performed herself. The direction of Hui Mang is solid, and he doesn't skimp on the details of the fight scenes, and even the comedic elements in the narrative are nicely done. Of course, the cheesy bits might be a bit annoying for some, but you don't check out a Hong Kong action flick expecting a Christopher Nolan classic. Enjoy the pure entertainment, heart-throbbing action, and non-stop comedy, and you'll surely have a fun evening. My Lucky Stars, 1985. A couple of Hong Kong cops are sent to Tokyo to take out a rogue ex-cop accused of stealing a large amount of money. One of the cops, named Muscles, is caught in a fix when his partner is kidnapped, and he turns to the 5 Lucky Stars, his old orphanage gang, for help. These friends of Muscles are up to no good, and they don't even like the idea of helping him out, but they do it nonetheless because of the ties they once shared. What happens when the old brothers are reunited for a common mission against a deadly enemy? A kick-ass Hong Kong action drama is what happens. The movies directed and acted by Sammo Hung almost have a pattern, and My Lucky Stars will show you all the familiar tropes. The movie also stars Jackie Chan, but even though he was a popular actor already, the movie only features him mostly in the final half hour. You will also notice that he looks smaller and leaner for the role, and it's fun to see the group of friends in action. The chemistry between them is great, but the fight scenes that they feature in are better. There is some undeniable silliness in the plot, but you also get to see some very cool fights. But if goofy narratives bother you, you probably shouldn't be watching Hong Kong action flicks in the first place. The Prodigal Son, 1981. Leong San is a young man who is obsessed with martial arts and he believes himself to be the best kung fu fighter out there. However, unknown to him, his worried father, who is also extremely rich, ensures the safety of his son by bribing all his opponents so they lose. When he finally discovers that his victories are actually manufactured by his father, he seeks out a real martial arts teacher, and the determined young man is keen on learning some proper kung fu this time. Can he win even when his opponents aren't puppets pretending to lose? This movie is a great example of what old school kung fu is all about. It's far away from the CGI stuff that you get in today's time, and everything from the storyline to the fight scenes is perfectly executed. The comedy used might not be to everyone's taste, but such was the brand of slapstick humor used during the times. We also love the intricate camera work in this one, and the pure genius of Sammo Hung is there for all to see. Lam Ching Ying delivers one of his best performances to date, and if for no other reason, you need to watch this movie for the climactic fight scene that's simply just too fast and furious. Naughty Boys, 1986. Singh, an ex-con, is released from jail and he's supposed to dig up all the wealth that his gang had buried before all four of them were imprisoned. However, he's shocked to find that the buried treasure chest has nothing but rocks in it. Meanwhile, the other three members of the gang who are still in jail are convinced that Singh stole it all for himself. Can Singh convince them otherwise and get to the bottom of the matter, or is he really responsible for all of the missing treasure? Dive into the mystery of Naughty Boys, starring some of Hong Kong cinema's finest. The movie is produced by Jackie Chan and it has a storyline and narrative that's typical to his style. However, he only appears for a few seconds and you can still stay for the action-packed extravaganza packed into this one. The fights look ridiculously good and real, and you can tell that the stunts must be difficult for the actors and stuntmen. Watch out for the bad guys in this movie, played by the talented trio of Lo Meng, Tai Bo, and Philip Ko. The climax is admittedly a bit over the top, but the hilarious comedy throughout the movie makes up for any lack of logic. Watch it just for the entertainment and you won't be disappointed unless you're a really harsh critic. Winners and Sinners, 1983. A group of 5 friends is released from prison and all of them are determined to give up the life of crime and stay out of trouble. They even attempt to run a cleaning service, but fate seems to have other plans for them. The friends soon find themselves in the middle of a war between rival triad gangs who are fighting for control over the counterfeit currency market. The friends must abstain from the temptation of wealth and crime, and they might just have a chance to redeem themselves from their life of sin. This is the first Lucky Stars movie, and it's a special one in that regard. But before you head out to watch this one, we must tell you that it's much more of a Sammo Hung movie than a Jackie Chan film. Jackie only has a minor role, and Sammo Hung as the director and actor takes command. The fight scenes and stunts are breathtaking, and the car crash scene is rather impressive for such a low-budget project. There's a ton of comedy in the narrative to keep the tone light, and while this is not one of the finest moments of Hong Kong cinema, the movie is definitely worth the watch for the fun performances from the cast. Dragons Forever, 1988. This is yet another Sammo Hung directorial venture, and the movie tells the story of 3 successful lawyers in Hong Kong who were hired by a chemical company. It becomes a moral dilemma for the lawyers when they find out that the company runs on questionable ethics, and more importantly, it's simply a front for the drug business conducted by the organization. Can the lawyers still represent this corrupt company in court, or will they reveal the sinister truth about them? This engagingly goofy Jackie Chan picture promises a thrilling journey as the superstar takes up the role of the lead lawyer. He's funny as always, and the movie also has some very sweet romance, but what truly stands out is the spectacular action. Of course, we expect nothing less with the legendary Jackie Chan. The romance bit might seem a bit inconsistent with the plot, but the jaw-dropping stunts make up for all the grievances. Make sure you stay for the finale because the blistering sequence has Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Biao fighting for 12 minutes straight as they take on the bad guys. Overall, this is a complete 80s Hong Kong entertainer that's far too amazing to miss out on. Heart of the Dragon, 1985. A policeman gives up on his dreams of traveling the world in order to take care of his mentally challenged brother, but his world changes overnight when the gangsters kidnap his brother to gain leverage over him. What follows is a desperate rescue attempt that brings him face to face with some hardened criminals, which results in some of the most badass fight sequences that you'll ever see in Hong Kong cinema. The Sammo Hung Jackie Chan duo needs no introduction, and this is another typical movie starring the duo. Of course, this time around, Sammo insisted that the audiences will accept Jackie Chan in a non-action role as well. Of course, the action scenes are still there, but at the heart of the movie is the drama and emotions that hold it together. Another unique thing about this movie is the realistic storyline, which isn't something you often see in this genre. The narrative offers the perfect blend of a feel-good family drama and a violent Hong Kong action flick, and the end result is a masterpiece. This might be one of the strangest movies in Jackie Chan's filmography, but it is one that deserves to be watched, especially for the uniqueness of it all. The Young Master, 1980. Dragon is an expert martial artist, but he fails his fellow students in a lion dance competition. This makes them send him away from the school in disgrace, and the only road to his redemption is to find his brother who had run away earlier and has found himself in bad company of late. Dragon goes on this difficult journey to bring back his lost brother, and the martial arts mayhem that ensues cannot be controlled. We love the brilliant and authentic action that we get to see in this movie, even if the action scenes aren't particularly original. Jackie Chan's first work with Golden Harvest became a successful venture, and even though the movie starts off slow, it picks up pace pretty quickly. There's a funny story about Jackie Chan while he was filming this movie. He was kidnapped by the Triad gangsters, and they were working for Jackie's former employer, Wei Lo. Later, he had to be sent away and couldn't even attend the premiere of his movie for safety reasons. All troubles aside, Jackie was at his goofy best in this movie, and the fight scenes are so well choreographed that you can tell people practiced for months to perfect them. Armor of God, 1986. The movie offers an Indiana Jones-style adventure where Asian Hawk is off to make a fortune through a mysterious treasure quest in Europe, along with his sidekick. When Asian Hawk's friend Alan finds out that his lover has been kidnapped by a cult, the adventure gets serious, and Asian Hawk decides to help out. It's also revealed that the mysterious treasure is held by a shadowy organization of monks, and it turns out to be a perfect action-adventure film. There's something about Armor of God that reminds us of Big Trouble in Little China, and that alone is worth watching the movie for. However, the real influence behind the film is Raiders of the Lost Ark, which impressed Jackie Chan quite a bit. Unfortunately, his freedom was somewhat limited in the making of this film, and he couldn't implement all that he envisioned. The film is also famously known for being the one that almost killed Jackie Chan during one of the stunts. While the narrative is interesting enough, things do get a tad bit slow during the middle before picking up pace by the end. The humor is unique, and you'll either be laughing like a lunatic or finding it irritating. All in all, the movie probably could have been better, but it's still among the most enjoyable Jackie Chan flicks out there. The Killer, 1989. The director of this film, John Woo, dedicated the movie to Martin Scorsese, and it's a fitting tribute indeed. The story is premised around a hitman from Hong Kong who accidentally blinds an innocent woman during a job. He is determined to help her get a surgery that will restore her eyesight, but he also faces a bitter betrayal from his employer. He has to do one last job for him, but he is ambushed thereafter, and now his allegiances must change for his survival. Meanwhile, a dedicated police officer is also hot on his trail, and he might just need an ally to survive this one. Many have regarded The Killer as John Woo's best movie, and it's indeed a perfect amalgamation of drama and action. He proves that he's a master of his art, and the cinematography is excellent with beautiful camera work. The climax will nearly drive you to tears, and the story has elements of ethics, honor, and redemption that make the movie so iconic. John Woo doesn't skimp out on the fighting scenes either, and the one at the church is one of the best that you'll ever see in Hong Kong cinema. The Killer has received a lot of international accolades over the years, and the movie deserves every bit of the appreciation. The Lady is the Boss, 1983. Chen Mei Ling is the daughter of the grandmaster of a kung fu school, and she arrives from America in order to inaugurate the new school building. However, it turns into hilarious chaos when she attempts to modernize the training techniques, and the movie explores the comedy of errors when an old-fashioned kung fu master's ideas clash with the hip and beautiful young lady. The movie is basically a reworking of Lu Chia-liang's earlier comedy, My Young Auntie, and the setting is Hong Kong from the early 1980s. The film is fun to watch, and the cast seems like they're enjoying themselves, even though the comedy can be silly at times. Of course, the movie gets a generous dose of kung fu, which we aren't complaining about, and the quirky and creative storyline ensures that you'll be hooked into it until the end. Miracles, 1989. This movie tells the story of a kind-hearted country boy who arrives in Hong Kong and gets cheated. He loses all his money, but he stumbles upon a poor flower seller who sells him a lucky red rose. Soon, his fortunes start to change as he finds himself as the head of a gang after saving the gang boss, and his new life brings with it a new set of dangers awaiting him. Jackie Chan has mentioned in his autobiography that this particular movie is his favorite, and you can tell there's something special about this film. The visuals are great, and the narrative is adorable, which has a typical feel-good vibe. We also love the perfect humor, and even though the fighting is less prevalent here, it's still some of Jackie Chan's best work. The technical supremacy of the film is evident from some of the scenes, and honestly, this film is a must-see for Jackie Chan fans to explore the more thoughtful side of the superstar. Tiger on the Beat, 1988. Buddy cop flicks are always fun to watch, and it's no different with Tiger on the Beat. Here, a veteran cop and a junior are assigned to a critical murder case. Even though the two have contrasting personalities, they must put aside their differences and work together on this one. Can the mismatched partners overcome the challenge? This movie is more of a Hong Kong action comedy version of Lethal Weapon, and Chow Yun-fat has performed remarkably well as a police sergeant. The plot heads straight to the point, and there are some fairly violent scenes throughout the narrative. You'll enjoy the fast-paced action, and Conan Lee ensures that the kung fu moves are spot on. If you don't expect much depth from this movie and appreciate the cheap thrills, then Tiger on the Beat will never disappoint you. Royal Warriors, 1986. Three cops form an alliance to fight a mob network and its henchmen after a hijacking attempt on a flight that carried a prisoner of the mob from Tokyo to Hong Kong. When the prisoner dies, the cops are blamed by the Blood Brothers, and they soon find themselves becoming the targets in this action-packed storyline. The movie is larger than life, loud, and brutal, exactly how a typical Hong Kong action classic should be. Michelle Yeoh is phenomenal in this film, and many have dubbed this one as her best work alongside Magnificent Warriors and Yes, Madam. The story has a nice mix of drama, action, and comedy that you'll enjoy, and the only problem with the narrative is the sappy melodrama that sometimes gets in the way. Overall, it's an experience that you wouldn't want to miss, and the movie is worth watching for Michelle Yeoh alone.
General, their firepower is too strong. We can't continue.
Magnificent Warriors, 1987. Fok Ming Ming goes to a town in China where a sinister Japanese chemical weapons factory threatens to destroy the entire community. She's helped by a local rebel and a stranger, and it turns into a vicious war against the Japanese troops who have the supremacy in numbers. Can they win this unfair battle? Many of you might know this film as Dynamite Fighters, and the story of Chinese resistance after the invasion of Japan during the 1930s is heartwarming. Once again, Michelle Yeoh pulls off a stunner, and the movie required almost 3 months of filming, which is quite a bit for a Hong Kong action drama. The budget of the filming process is not too insignificant either, and the well-choreographed fight sequences come with a side of humor that makes this a compelling watch. We strongly recommend checking this out as Michelle Yeoh channels her inner Indiana Jones. Fatal Termination, 1990. A police detective is investigating a case of weapons smuggled through an airport and has a run-in with a corrupt customs officer. Things soon take a serious turn, and a deadly ammunition smuggler turns to teaching the detective a lesson by kidnapping 2 of the security officer's daughters. This movie features Andrew Kam, whom we have watched and loved in The Big Head, and while this movie doesn't have the budget of the former, it still has the stunts that'll make you go crazy. The story is nicely done and not just a casual filler, and some of those story elements are so sensitive that you're unlikely to see them in Hollywood anytime soon. The movie has some very likable characters, and villains like Mortal Kombat's Robin Shou are equally intense. We wouldn't say Fatal Termination is one of the greats of Hong Kong cinema, but it's still worth watching for a fun action movie night. Marvelous Verdict. Kung fu comedy and drama, it doesn't get better. The Hong Kong action movies from the 80s are basically entertainment redefined, and the best thing about this assortment of martial arts, comedy, and drama is the end result that puts a smile on your face. These aren't movies that you need to put your mind to, but the lighthearted narratives are often just what you need after a long day at work. Sadly, the genre has lost its charm, and we don't get to see movies like this anymore, but if anything needs to be revived and reintroduced, it's this golden period of Hong Kong cinema, even though the geniuses who made it all possible are either gone or past their prime. Do let us know in the comments section down below which of these movies are your personal favorites and why, or maybe let us know if we missed your favorite, because we're always looking for new movies. Also, let us know your thoughts on the genre and its impact on action cinema as a whole. We'd love to hear it. Also, if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.